believes may cause direct financial benefit or detriment to the office holder. There's also a section in this code for the advisory capacity towards the bottom of the page. They talk about advisory boards. They should disclose the name of the entity or organization of which they participate, a brief description of the type of business or activity conducted by the entity, and the type of advisory position held by the filer. At the option of the filer, any real property in which the filer holds an ownership or other financial interests that the filer believes may constitute a conflict of interest, including a description of real property, which we believe are the airport hangars. Is real property. Also, at the bottom of this section, there actually is a penalty. A regulated office holder who violates the requirements of this section is guilty of a Class B misdemeanor. You don't see that on every section of state code. A lot of times there's no penalties, but there is a penalty for this. We're also concerned about that the Heber Airport fixed-base operator or any of his representatives should not be an airport advisory board member. Every recommendation made by the advisory board has a direct benefit or liability to the fixed-base operator. Almost every decision they make affects the fixed-base operator. Also, the hangar owners on the Airport Advisory Board have voted on hangar lease recommendations that could directly affect the value of their leases in the last year. And I meant to ask you, Art, does this have audio? Can I click on a link for an audio recording? Do we have audio here? Okay, well that was a link to one of the videos that I sent you. As part of the packet. A lot of what was in the packet we are not discussing tonight. That was just extra information. There's been a lot of investigation going on for this presentation tonight. We didn't want to take up a lot of your time on some of this other stuff, but I sent you recordings, and on the March 12th recording, the first one, the city manager talks about their conflict of interest disclosures that they need to sign, and that Mark Smedley, the city attorney, had recommended that they sign one every year. And then the board started to laugh. And I don't know how else to describe it. I hope you guys have watched it, but if you haven't, I honestly didn't remember them laughing as hard as they did when I recorded that. So it was quite a surprising reaction to the conflicts of interest statement. The airport board chair for 2013 and a Heber City councilman for the last 4 years has received campaign donations in 2013 from the fixed-base operator, and he did not deliver the final campaign disclosure to Heber City within the mandatory 30 days after election per Heber City code, and there's also a Utah code for the same thing. So I'm not going to read the code there, but it is there, it's in your packet, you can look it up later, but it says you have to disclose within 30 days of the election the final report.
Mayor, can I ask a point of information, please? Mark?
I can't hear you, I don't know if your microphone is on. Oh, okay.
Mark, how often have the airport board members made those conflict, or filled out the conflict of interest forms? Have they done it every year?
I haven't looked at it real closely. Last year, Mark Smedley did training on the conflict of interest policy for all boards, and certainly we had representatives from the airport board there, and I think conflict of interest forms were given out at that time, but it should be done on an annual basis. I know I passed out the forms the other night, and I think 2 have been returned so far.
Right, and I've seen those. I'm just wondering, do you have the others on file from previous years?
Any that are on file will be in Michelle's office. I have not investigated to see what's there.
But have we ever checked that to make sure that everyone's doing their conflict of interest forms every year?
I don't know. I have not.
Okay, more question, please, Tracy.
No, that's fine.
Do you happen to remember if all of the candidates made their filings in time last November?
I was not mindful that any didn't meet the
30-day requirement?
30-day requirements. I mean, Michelle and I talk about those kind of things. It's never been a point of discussion.
Well, I'm just concerned, you know, you're saying that they didn't make the deadline, and I'm wondering if they did or not, because I only knew about my filing. I made sure to get it in, but you don't know. Is everybody getting in okay?
As far as I know, you're looking at it right there.
Well, this one's dated October 28th, prior to the election. And it actually shows the disclosure on the left. And the reason why some of us are concerned about this is it's showing a 2870 deficit on that campaign disclosure. And then when you look over to the right, and it's very hard to read, but the fourth one down is Nadine, the fixed base operator, who donated to this candidate $1,500. All the other candidates total do not even total that. And then if there wasn't a final filing 30 days later, it just brings up some questions that as citizens we have as
What's your question? I'd be happy to answer that. I don't understand what you're saying.
Well, we're just saying a final disclosure was not filed. That was done prior to the election. It has a date of it of 10/28/2013 at the bottom left.
There were no changes. That was it. That was the final.
Well, I'm not, I'm just bringing this up. We were told that
what's
the
the issue
final
with the
30-day was not filed.
What's the discrepancy? Why is there an issue with the negative balance?
No, we're just saying there's a negative balance there prior to the election, and there was no final disclosure.
This is the final disclosure. In other words, there was $2,800 that I spent on my own money. So I don't understand.
That's my question exactly. If there's no final disclosure, then...
This is the final disclosure.
No, it's not.
My understanding of this done, this is supposed to be sent in 7 days before the election. If not, they may be removed off the ballot. And after election, you have 30 days to file. Even if it's the same form again, you have to fill it back out and send that back for the final disclosure. Every candidate is supposed to send for the final disclosure.
Well, that was the intent. This was supposed to be that document, so there was no changes to it.
Well, then you resubmit the same document back in.
I did not, I was not aware of that. I thought since there were no changes, this was the final.
Can we go on? Thanks. Nadine, the fixed base operator, was appointed in 10/20/2011. Within 6 months after he was on the board, on the advisory board, the council approved his contract extension, even though it was already out to 2025. So now his contract goes out to 2032. You can see who made the motion, who seconded it, and how the vote went in the minutes to that meeting. Our question is, why did the Heber City Council extend his contract when it was already out to 2025? And how is this in the city's or citizens' best interest? We're just asking a question. We're just wondering why you would possibly extend it. In the minutes to the July 2012 meeting, the fixed base operator revealed that he had worked behind the scenes to get a better airport approach, to remove night lighting limitations, and wanted to expand the airport to a C2 airport. He disclosed that in a public meeting. In August 2012, Mr. Rowland moved to extend the fixed base operator's lease, making it a 30-year non-reversionary lease. And you can see who motioned and seconded. It was a unanimous vote, but McDonald asked if the other hangar owners would get the same consideration, and Mr. Rowland said it should be on a case-by-case consideration. Again, We're asking as citizens, why did the Heber City Council extend his lease and change it? And how is this in our best interest?
Mayor, can I ask another point of information?
Let's Tracy first. She got you.
I've only got a couple more slides, and thank you. This is your oath of office. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state, and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity. We are concerned that the recent conduct of the airport board may cause undue vulnerability to the citizens and taxpayers of Heber City in any actions that may be taken in the future because of recent recommendations by the airport board. Advisory boards are a great training to involve more people in government, and this is part of our suggestions. The volunteer citizen advisory boards are an integral part of the American local government. The creation of advisory boards is a way for local governments to engage citizens in the democratic process. Their primary purpose is to provide judicious advice from a citizen perspective. Citizens' participation is considered a right and a responsibility by many civic-minded leaders. This is standard procedure in a lot of governments throughout our country. Ideally, advisory boards bring together citizen views that might not otherwise be heard. They are made up of persons of wide-ranging interests and expertise who want to participate in public service, but who may not wish to hold public office. Participation on advisory boards may serve as a training ground or stepping stone for qualified persons who are interested in seeking public office. More specifically, advisory bodies can provide assistance to the legislative body when formulating public policy and help transform policy decisions into action. They can also address issues of interest or conduct background work on technical or politically sensitive issues. And then here's our final suggestions to you, and hopefully you will consider them. The Heber City Council should postpone any decisions concerning the airport until a proper review of all these issues has been completed. This will help protect Heber City's interests going forward. There is no need to alter the current Airport Advisory Board bylaws just amended in 2011. Instead of altering the bylaws to legitimize the current board members and their conflicts of interest, have your newly appointed advisory board members align with your current bylaws. Start over and conduct a new process for all interested citizens of Wasatch County to apply for all seats of the Airport Advisory Board. No Heber City Council member should be on the Airport Advisory Board. Make it a true citizen board that brings new ideas, expertise, and recommendations to the council for deliberation and decisions. Bylaws already state the city manager will be the liaison to the city council. If it becomes a true citizen board, then it will easily comply with state code and not pay the board members. Encourage the new airport board chair to follow the current bylaws and state code and enforce the conflicts of interest section. And then also lastly, review Heber City's checks and balances system. City council and all other boards should be following their bylaws, city code, and state code. Thanks very much.